Welcome to DO, Attribute Structures, Date-Time Data Types, part of the InfiniteGraph video series. In this video, we will discuss the different date and time data types that you can use when creating schema definitions. The date-time data types include date, time, and interval. We are only going to talk about how to create class definitions using these types. In later videos, we will describe how to populate the attributes of these types in instance objects. The first attribute type is date. Date attributes are used to represent dates. Attributes of type date do not have a time component. They only store the date value. The logical type is date, and in the quick look we see how to declare an attribute finalized to be of type date. Note that dates are interpreted based on the Gregorian calendar and are AD. Time values have a logical type of time, and in the quick look we see two declarations, start time and end time, to be declared of type time. Time values are in a 24-hour clock format. We have the date type for dates and the time type for times, and now we have the date-time type when we need an attribute that is capable of storing both the date and the time in a single attribute. The date-time type is used for storing date-time values for either local date times or for UTC date times. The logical type is date-time. There is one optional setting, storage, that has two possible values, date-time and date-time offset. The default value for storage is date-time. Please observe that in this case date-time is both the attribute type and the value for the storage setting within the attribute. Setting the storage to date-time allows us to represent date-time values in the local time standard or in the coordinated universal time standard. Setting the storage to date-time offset is for date-time values that will include a time zone expressed as a UTC offset, expressed as the number of hours and minutes between the local time zone and UTC. I'll show you some examples of this in just a minute. The final date-time related attribute type is interval. An interval represents a time span or duration between two date, time, or date-time values. The basic values are interval values. The logical type is interval, and here in the quick look we see that we can create an attribute called delta time of type interval. Let's talk about value ranges and resolutions for each of the date-time data types. Logical type date occupies 4 bytes in each object in the database. The minimum value for a date is 110001, so January 1st, year 1 AD. The maximum value of a date is December 31st, year 9999, so December 31st, 9999. The resolution of a date is 1 day. For logical type time, it is also stored in 4 bytes in each object in the database. The minimum value is midnight, or 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, which is midnight, and the maximum value is 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds, and 9,999 milliseconds. The resolution for a time attribute is 100 microseconds. Date time values occupy 8 bytes if the storage is set to date time, and 16 bytes if it's a date time offset. The minimum value is January 1st, year 1, midnight, 00:00:00, and the maximum value is 12/31/9999, 23/59/59, 9999, and the resolution is 100 nanoseconds. The interval data type occupies 8 bytes in the database, for each entry and has a minimum value of minus 5 million days and a maximum value of positive 5 million days. The resolution is 100 nanoseconds. Dates within dates and date time attributes can be represented in two different ways. We can use a hyphenated format or a format that uses slashes. So 2021 hyphen 05-17, and this is 4-digit year, a hyphen, a 2-digit month, hyphen, and a 2-digit day. We can do the same thing with slashes, where we do a 4-digit year, a slash, a 2-digit month, slash, and a 2-digit day. And again, this works for both date attributes and date time attributes. Times can be represented in two different ways as well. The base form for both representations is a 2-digit hour, colon, 2-digit minute, colon, and a 2-digit seconds field. The second form allows you to express the fractional portion of seconds in a decimal form. Date time values inherit the date and time patterns that we've just discussed. For local time zones, we end up with a date pattern YYYY-MM-DD or slashes, followed by the standard time hour, colon, minute, colon, SS for seconds, optionally adding the .s for decimal portions of a second. The interesting thing to note here is that UTC time zones in the date time format are exactly the same format with the addition of the Z on the end of whichever pattern you decide to use. Also notice that the date and time components are separated by a single space. Extending what we did with date times on the previous slide, we can now include UTC offsets. Here, the two forms with hyphens and slashes is still both accepted for the date, followed by a space, followed by a time, followed by another space, followed by the offset, a plus or a minus, a 2-digit hour, a colon, and a 2-digit minute. And this will give you local time zones with UTC offsets and UTC time zones with UTC offsets. In this presentation, we looked at the date, time, and interval attribute types and how to incorporate them into your schema definitions.